Hey everyone. So today I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of a software or a program that I've recently written, mobile app using Flutter and Dart. So just demo it, show you guys what I've been working on. So let me share my screen here so we can start off here. So first I wanted to dive into the code a little bit. I developed this using Flutter. I wanted to be able to have it be compatible between iOS and Android devices, either one. Since I'm using a PC, I can only emulate it on an Android device, but that's the beauty of Flutter is it can be implemented on both. So basically what I have going on here, let me just pull this down. So you have your basic main page, it initializes everything, gets everything all loaded in. But what really starts the whole design of the app is this home page. Actually, let me go ahead and pull it up so I can demonstrate this here. So with Flutter, like I said, you can do it, outside of Android Studio's Xcode, you can do it just in VS Code. I'm in the command prompt here. You'll run it by doing Flutter run. And then this takes a little bit of time to load. What it does, it connects to this emulator right here, and then we'll open up the app. And while that is loading, let me dig into this code a little bit here. So basically, this app is meant to be a finance tracking app. I also wanted to be able to link it to a Google Sheets spreadsheet so I can keep track of the finances through there and through my app as well. Some of the features that this includes is it has a top card that displays your total balance, and then the increase and decrease in cash. It shows a list of your transactions as well as a button that you can interact with to include or update transactions. Every time you update it in the app, it will be updated automatically in the spreadsheet. And so let's see if that loaded in yet. There we go. So we can see here that there's already some data here. So let me go ahead and I'm going to grab this spreadsheet and pull it over here so we can look at that. So basically, when this app loaded in, it started off with these two items. We have an income of $150 and an expense of $50. And so when we look at this total balance here, we can see that that's what it reflects. It's 150 increase or income and then a $50 expense. So it comes out to that total balance. Now we can update this as well. As I said, if you click that plus button, it'll allow you to enter in a new transaction. So let's say that I had $200 for just do work, and that was income. So when you enter that in, that'll pop up and it'll be the bottom one right here. One thing I do want to work on is I want to reverse that order. So it'll just be the most recent at the top. And so as you can see, the top balance does the calculations, it reflects that. There's now an income of 350 and an expense of 50. If you want to add an expense, you can do the same thing. Let's say I went to the store, let's say I got some gas. We'll say spend $50 on gas. So you enter that in. Once you click enter, it'll update automatically. And at the bottom, you see that there is now a transaction for an expenditure with gas. And now the total balance reflects it. I had a lot of fun with this. As you can see also, let me pull up the spreadsheet so I can show you that's updated. We can see that those were automatically populated into the spreadsheet as well. So that'd be very useful to keep track of it for personal finance related topics. You can add some visualizations into your spreadsheet. So that way you can kind of have complete control over it yourself instead of being in the confines of the app. So let's dig into the code just a tiny bit here. There's a lot to go into, so I won't dig into it too much. Basically, I'll go over the separate pieces. So this is a very simple one. This is just the loading circle. So when the app is loading in, all the information from the spreadsheet has to connect to it through the API. We have just a container that has the height and width, and it's a circular progress indicator, which is a built-in widget that Flutter has, and it's just that little circle. So that's pretty simple. And then we have our transactions. This one's a little bit more complicated. This controls what's happening in the back end on the top card. So basically we have our widget. This is where we control all the styling type things and right here, this is the text we display. Now this one's pretty interesting. This is a conditional statement, so we check if it's an expense, or so when you select an expense or income, if it's an expense, we put a minus sign to reflect negation, and then if it's income, you add a plus, and then you can cat a $sign to the front. This we also check for the color. We say if it's an expense, I want the color to be red. If it's not an expense, or if it is an income, I want it to be green. And then we have our top card here, which is this is kind of where it's displayed. And so we build our widget. We have all of the text displayed. We have our balance. You can cat balance with a dollar amount. Then you have your padding, all of that. And down here, we also have our text for our income and for our expenses as well. And then we have this little icon set here, which this is what is right next. Let me pull it up. So what's right next to that dollar amount. So we have an upward arrow that is up here, and we have a down arrow that is here, and that is in red. So there's some really cool built-in widgets that you can use. There's also a decoration I use to add some extra styling to that card itself. So it's super fun to play around with that. We also have our plus button. This is, again, a simple widget. All it does is we declare the height and width, give it a decoration or the styling that we like, and then the text is just a plus. Now everything gets, or also we have our Google Sheets API. So this is what connects it to the sheet itself. This is a little bit more complicated. This is where we do some of the transactions and the calculations. So first we go through and we count all the rows and the columns as well. And so what it does, it loops through everything and checks if there's values in it. And this up here, it connects it to the spreadsheet. And you can see here that you have to define the name of the spreadsheet, which for right now is just sheet 1. Now we have our load transactions. And so this loops through the columns that are available. Since I know that I only have 3 columns that you can actually pull data from, it just goes through 3. And so it sets each of these to a specific value. So we have our transaction name is the first column, our transaction amount, the second column, and the type, third column. And this just checks the length of it to know if it should be added on or not. And then when that happens, when it's loaded in, the loading circle is set to false, and so it'll stop working. Now, this is where we insert into the spreadsheet the incomes and expenses, all of that different information. And this is pretty simple calculations of calculating the income. We just go through, we loop through the items and then do the math to be able to calculate with the expenses. We add with the income we add, with the expenses we subtract. So that's basically it. And then our home page is where that all comes together. So we pull that up here, home page. And so you can see here, we import all of the different files, the different programs and classes. Then we have here, we set the class of our home page, and this is where we enter our transactions. This is where we set the state of the app. And this is a new transaction, so it goes through, it displays kind of the text you see, and this does a lot of the back end kind of calculation and things like that to control the output that you see. This is the box that you get when it pulls up, and when you enter in a new transaction, it gives you these hints. It says what is the amount, enter the total amount, what is it for, all of that. We have our widgets that display extra that information in that box. This is the start loading condition. So it sets the loading to true until the API says that it's false. Then it sets it to false, sets the state, and then cancels out the loading. And then this is where we start loading. We actually build the widget. We have a scaffold here, and this scaffold is everything you see with the top card, which you can see here is called the top new card, which is pneumatic. This does some of the calculations here as well. Sets them to strings so we can actually manipulate them and display them for a user. And then this plus button right here. So in this home page .dart, we call all of those other functions. So it's actually what's applying those functions. We have our plus button function here, which we set the name of the function or the function itself to a new transaction, which is what actually gets it updated. So there's a lot I can go into. It's super exciting, really fun to play around with. But that's it for now. I'd love to hear any suggestions or advice you guys may have. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to listen. And that's it. Thank you.